Hi, this is Stephanie from Sew It Online, and I have our Janome Sewist 725S here today, and we're going to show you some tips and tricks on how to thread the machine, wind a bobbin, and just some general sewing. So stay tuned and let's get started. So we've got our machine here, and I'm going to put our spool and add our little spool cap here. I'm going to lean the machine down a little bit so you can see what I've got going on. So I've got some numbers up here, and I've got our little threading path for our bobbin winder. So I'm going to thread the machine up to wind the bobbin first, and then we're going to start sewing. So I'm just going to two-handed draw around our little spring area here. Set the machine back down. I'm going to put a bobbin on our spool. First, I am going to, however, fish the thread through one of the little holes at the top of the bobbin here, just so we can hold on to that bobbin thread as we're winding. So I'm going to lock that into place. And then with our foot pedal, I'm going to give it a little bit of a start. And once we have some thread up on that spool, I'm going to clip our thread from the top here and continue on winding. So as I'm winding, I can show you here, if you don't get it in that little tension area, you're going to get a really wonky looking bobbin like this that has absolutely no tension, and all it is just a loopy mess. We don't want a loopy mess, we want a nice cleanly wound bobbin. So we just have to be careful and make sure that the thread stays in there. I'm not going to wind up the full bobbin today, but if it's done and it's a full bobbin, it's going to start to slow down a little bit, and I can move it back over and take it off and clip it there. I'm going to show us how to put the bobbin in here in just a minute once I get this threaded to sew. So I'm going to lean our machine back down again so you guys can see. I'm going to take the thread out of there that I was winding the bobbin with, and I'm going to hold the thread with two hands. And it's going to draw around the little bar here for number 1 and draw down for number 2 and around for number 3 down here. But what I don't see at number 4 is the little hook that holds the thread up here. So I need to give the hand wheel a turn, and it's going to poke up there. So when I go to thread that, I'm going to go from right to left, and it's going to lock in there. So it locks into our little eye there. And I'll put the machine back down there. And then we're going to draw down to number 5. And then there is a little hook back here that fits in right at the needle bar. And so I'm going to put the foot down to thread the needle. And we do want to still keep this two-handed. We have a little needle threader here that's going to draw down and fit in. And remember, two-handed, because we have to hold this down. I'm going to loop our thread right behind this little plastic hook area, and then it's going to draw across the eye of the needle and right under the hook there. There's also a really fine hook that's right at that needle threader to get in there. So I've got our thread here at the needle bar, and I've got our foot down now to thread the machine. So I'm going to push our little lever down, and I'm going to draw the thread around that little plastic hook, and I'm going to draw it right underneath this other little plastic hook over on this side. Still holding it here with tension, I'm going to let the needle threader go back up, and now I've got my little loop here in the back to pull through. And now our needle is threaded. So I'm going to lift up on that foot there. I'm going to open up our little door for our bobbin. And the bobbin I just wound earlier there. We're going to have the bobbin thread drawing off from the left-hand side down. And it's going to fit into our bobbin case. And then there is a little metal piece there. It's a little bar that it has to go underneath to fit in. And I'm going to draw it in there, and I'm going to set it back down. So make sure it goes in there. And I'm going to leave this door off for right now. And I'm going to turn the hand wheel just so that thread starts to draw around that rotary hook in the bobbin case. And then it's going to pop up right from underneath. So I'm going to kind of give it give it a tug if I need to kind of sneak in there with my scissors there. Now I've drawn the bobbin thread up from underneath. So now I can close that door, and then I can go to our stitch selector here and get sewing. So over here in our gray section, those are our stretch stitches, and they'll be indicated on our dial here for stretch stitches. I'll turn around here. So any of these are going to correspond with this gray bar here. And normally this is just going to be our stitch length. So I'm going to leave it at about a 2, and I'm going to go to stitch A to do a straight stitch. So I'm going to grab some fabric here. I'll put our presser foot down. We're going to make sure that we've got AB selected here, and then I'll select my length here. So about a 2.5 is good. I'm going to hold our thread, and we're going to start sewing. And this is our back stitch button. I'm going to give it a press, and it's going to back stitch once we're done. And then I can lift up, clip our thread, and we can go on to a zigzag stitch, our 2 most popular stitches. So let's go over to stitch selector C. I'm going to go back over here, make sure we're at C. We can make this a little bit wider and make it a little bit longer for our zigzag. Just remember to hold our thread, and we can go ahead and do our zigzag stitch. We can still back stitch as well, and we're ready to go. So I'll turn the hand wheel up, make sure we have our thread out of the way, clip our threads, and we've got our nice zigzag stitch. So that is a few tips and tricks for the Janome Sewist 725S. Look for more videos at Sew It Online on some more in-depth techniques. We'll see you soon.